so often when we find that people bring the worst part of themselves to work, and that can create a whole lot of conflict in the workplace. It's a beautiful question, why? Because I think it's partly about, we think about work almost transactionally, right? So we think about our families, our communities, maybe our religion as something, in relationship and in connection. But then we come to work in order to give something and then get something. And that creates, I think, a stress on us. I don't think as human beings we're meant to be in this transactional space. We're meant to be in connection and in relationship with each other. And when we are in relationship, in really fundamental and deep connection, then actually we're relaxed. We know we belong. We don't have to survive. But instead, if we're in the mode of, I need to make sure I survive and I get what I need, and I'm not actually in a place where my needs will be met, then I think all of our evolutionary strategies come right back into us, and we have to fight. And that does bring out the worst in us. It's very true. And it's very sad, actually, because then we can't be who we're capable of being. I don't think anyone is happy with that outcome. Altruistic capital is the desire and ability that every individual has to serve and to contribute. It's something that is a source of value for the individual. It can accumulate within by doing repeated actions and growing. It can also deplete. And it's something that can aggregate within an organization. As you can imagine, it's a huge asset for an organization to have a number of people who are deeply motivated to contribute and serve, and also have the ability to internalize the impact that they have on others. That's an incredible skill, to take on the perspective of others, to know what impact you might have on them. So imagine if you had a whole workforce that had that, or countries that have that, societies that have that. So it aggregates, and it's a source of value at the aggregate level, but it can also deeply deplete. And that's why, as an individual, it's incredibly important that you are very aware of what things can build your altruistic capital and what things deplete it. And I think that's often why we see that, the best talent is very careful about where it wants to go, because the types where we spend a lot of our time is at work. And if we're exposed to organizations that are helping us build our altruistic capital, that's a wonderful thing. If instead we feel our altruistic capital depleting because of our constant exposure to an environment that doesn't encourage that, then that's something that we need to guard within ourselves, because it's a great source of value to us as individuals. So what are going to be the things that will build it? And the first and most important one is actually connecting every individual's effort to the impact that they are having. We are meaning-making machines as humans, right? We need to have meaning in everything that we do. And so when I'm doing something, just to know what downstream effect it has is already a big motivator, and we often don't actually connect that. So people are alienated from their work, and then they're alienated from each other because of that. And so that would be the first really quick takeaway, also from our research of just a simple thing that one can do to accumulate altruistic capital. On the other side, creating greater dissonance, either in values that are not integrated sufficiently into the organization at all levels, or I think especially in this movement towards inclusion and diversity, or towards purpose-driven businesses where there's a lot of talk, but actually it's not walked, that can create greater dissonance than not talking about it at all. And that in itself is actually, can lose productivity. Because what happens in people's brains is that the working memory goes towards, why is there dissonance here? And I have to solve it in my head, even if I'm not aware of it. This understanding that universally we are social beings that desire connection, relationship, and meaning. That's our universal thing. Okay, then also we are women and men, and also we come from many different cultures, and also we come from many different home backgrounds, and different languages, and different ways of seeing the world, and different brain structures. These are also things that we have as human beings. Maybe that all of these other things are actually informing how I interact with you. But at its core, I am seen as the full human being that I am, and not just as a representative of the group that I present to you as. Right. Well, first is that everyone's looking to see, do you buy into these new values? Do you buy into what is being said as important in terms of purpose? And this is something else as humans. We're pretty good at, the dissonance and the sense of disconnection, we can delude ourselves only for a bit. We kind of know when we don't believe in something, even if we try to say it. So I think it's really confronting our own internal conflicts as leaders and saying, where am I misaligned in myself? What have I not accepted in myself and in my team and in my company? And let me look courageously at those sources of disconnection and dissonance and overcome them, first in myself, then in my team, and then in the company. And through that example, I can show others how to do that process, which gives clarity and courage, but actually needs some leadership and modeling. We are in an incredible moment in time. There's a tremendous window of opportunity. I think the realization of our impact on others, the world, the climate, is increasing and at a point where it is very difficult to ignore the interconnection that we have. And particularly with younger generations, but that's, I think across the board, there's a demand for a greater sense of responsibility to society. But one that maybe, I think part of my message is that it doesn't have to come at the expense of individual flourishing. We are understanding a deeper view of human nature that allows us a form of individual flourishing where we can in fact be much happier potentially than we have been in the past because we are receiving satisfaction from a broader set of things and not just, for example, looking for the next raise or the next promotion. Wisdom is a beautiful word, right? Because it's different from knowledge. And I think you need knowledge. It's kind of necessary but not sufficient for wisdom. And as a scientist and as an academic, I believe strongly in the value of building knowledge together. So I would say the first thing is actually building knowledge together, looking at data together, being open to evidence and making decisions based on evidence. And then the wisdom part that adds to looking at knowledge is the wisdom to know where to apply that knowledge, in what way, and to have this much broader understanding, which, if we're very honest, is let's call it a more spiritual understanding, a wider and broader understanding of human nature that allows us to apply the knowledge that our extraordinary minds have created in a way that also allows our souls to flourish.